Hey there, Math 85. Now that we have learned how to multiply and divide all sorts of fractions, let's move on to addition and subtraction. So our method is going to be that when you see two fractions that have the exact same denominator, you can go ahead and add the numerators, keep that same denominator. So why does this work? Here's an example of 1/4 plus 2/4. The denominator 4 just represents how many equal-sized pieces there are in one whole. So that really just tells us that we're talking about the same size pieces here. So if you say I have one of these things called a fourth, plus two of these things called fourths, add them all together, how many do I have total? I have 3 of these objects called fourths. So I have 3/4. So notice that all I had to do was just 1, 2, 3, count them up. Add the numerators together, keep them over that same denominator because we're not changing the size of our pieces here. Here's another picture to show you why this works. Suppose I want to add 3/5 plus 4/5. So my denominator is 5, which tells me that this unit here, this size 1 chunk from 0 to 1, I can break it up into 5 equal sized pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And similarly, I'll break up this next one whole chunk into 5 equal sized pieces. So each one of these pieces is size 1/5. So now I can add 3/5, which is 1, 2, 3/5 is right here. And add to it 4 of these fifths. So 1, 2, 3, 4, which is right there. And where I land is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fifths. All right, so now that we understand how this works, again, two fractions with the same denominator, just add the numerators, keep that same denominator. Let's go ahead and see how that works in these examples. And feel free, once you start the example, go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own, and then play the video to see if you are correct. So 3/5 plus 1/5. We'll add 3 plus 1, put it over 5, so that gives us 4/5. Next example, x over 3 plus 2 over 3. Notice they have the same denominator of 3, so I'll just keep that same denominator, and I'll be adding x plus 2. Always you try to see if you can simplify this. Above here, I was able to add 3 plus 1 together to get 4. But here, x and 2 are not like terms, so there's nothing, you can't add them together. You can't combine them because they're not like terms. So I'll just leave it as x plus 2 over 3. All right, next example. Maybe I should circle my answers here. Negative 9 over d plus 3 over d. So with this negative sign, what I like to do is whenever there's a negative, I like to associate it with the numerator there. So imagine this as being a negative 9 over d plus 3 over d. So then when you add these together, you'll have negative 9 plus 3 all over that common denominator of d, which becomes negative 6 over d. And that negative sign, again, I like to say that I like to associate it with the numerator, but you can pop it out front as well when you say what your final answer is. All right, next example, 23/24 minus 14 over 24. Again, same denominator, so 23 minus 14 all over 24. So you could think of this as 23 minus 14, or you can think of it as 23 plus a negative 14, either way. All right, and what I end up with is 9 over 24. All right, one more subtraction example. Again, here I've got both of my terms are negative. So my favorite thing to do is to associate each one of those negative signs with the numerator. So this becomes really a negative 10 over x. And here you see minus, but I really like to think of it as plus a negative 4 over x, which is how we discussed doing subtraction when we were dealing with integers. All right, so now I have that same denominator of x, so I'll do negative 10 plus negative 4 all over x, which is negative 14 over x. All right, last example. I've got here 3 fractions that I'm trying to add together. 3/8 plus negative 5/8 minus 1/8. They all have a denominator of 8, so I can really put them all over that same common denominator. 3 plus negative, I like to associate with the numerator, negative 5. And then you can either say minus 1 or plus negative 1. All over 8. And now we can go in order. 3 plus negative 5 is negative 2. Plus negative 1 is negative 3. All right, feel free to refer to these videos when doing your homework for this section.